We're talking to Ernie Evangelista, who used to go to UW Parkside. What year did you graduate?
Graduated in fall of 2004.
What was going on in the world at the time when you graduated?
I think a lot of what was going on was probably really the explosion of technology and a much more mobile hadn't yet been, smartphones hadn't yet been introduced really until a few years later, but they started to kind of head that way. You had iPods and the ability to connect, wirelessly from a mobile device. Social media had just started really around that time.
What was your major?
So I majored in a degree in communication with a focus in media, and that was primarily what I was focused on.
Were you in any organizations?
At the time, I participated in the communication, within the Department of Communication, a student organization there. And then I also participated in a couple of the Hispanic organizations they had at that time, student groups that they had.
Brought you to Parkside.
Me, or being close to home, offered me a couple of opportunities, just kind of staying connected and making sure I was, I think Parkside was going to be more of a place where I ended up at to kind of see and discover what other options there might be. But as I got here, the programs were amazing. The professors, the faculty was amazing. Connected right away my first year with many of the faculty on the communication department.
What made you want to be a communication major in the first place?
So communication really just called me. I think it really, there were probably a couple classes that were very focal, like very much a focus on, or I guess I should say like a turning point for really wanting to go the route of communication. And one of those had to actually do with media and society. It was a class that we took that was offered then. I don't even know if it's offered now, but it essentially allowed us to look at how communication and media impacts really our society in a much bigger way than we think sometimes. And oftentimes it was in the way that messages could be carried forward in a way that changes the perception of something bad to good, even though the thing could still be bad, or something that's good to bad, even though the very thing could still be good.
What kind of student were you?
What kind of student? I think I was always just curious. When I was passionate about something, I pursued it with like every intent and was always trying to look for how could I make this better, or how can I make this not only better, but how can I make it different.
So who were some of your classmates?
Oh geez, now you're really testing my memory. Well, a year after I started here, my then girlfriend from high school, my high school sweetheart, started coming here. So she was one of my classmates. We later ended up getting married.
What was your fondest memory here at Parkside?
As a projectionist. So this was, I don't even know if they still have like the old, traditional projector there. A lot of it's moved over to digital projection, but this is when we would get a film shipped to us in like 6 or 8 canisters, depending on how long the movie was, and we had to splice the film to literally splice the film together on a big plate in the projection room. And running the movie, showing the movie 3-4 times a weekend, and just sitting up there in the projection booth, watching people react to these movies.
Did you have any favorite hangouts at school?
The library. Yeah, the library was my favorite place just because I loved the quietness, being able to, just get some things done, but also loved, wherever there were group projects, being involved with others and just the dialogue.
Who were some of the teachers who inspired you?
One was Megan Mullen. and she really honestly was probably the singular person who helped guide me along and find, that direction and communication I wanted to take in. Teresa Castor was another professor who's just great. Loved Teresa and the courses we had. I think she was another person who was very key. Wendy Leeds Hurwitz was another professor who was challenging in her courses, but really enlightening as well in terms of just the multifaceted ways in which communication applies in our everyday lives, looking at things like iconography and symbolisms in just not just words, but shapes and how that comes to life, and me get out of my shell, if you will, really helped me not be afraid to go out there, seek out what it is I needed, and from someone, if that was asking someone or if that was getting up in front and speaking to a class. I think she was very instrumental.
So where are you working now?
So I work for retailer Kohl's, and I work at their corporate office. I work in the marketing department, and within the marketing department we have a communications and PR team. And my role specifically on that team is to help with the with the communication technology that we use for our teams to communicate to all employees within the organization. In the foundation for how communication, works and how it can scale and how the nuances of it that can be applied to any medium in an organization.
Were there any obstacles you had to overcome to get to where you're at now?
So my family decided when I was about 15 to move back to Mexico. And at that time I had a number, actually I think I was 16, so I think that would have made me almost a junior in high school. But I already had a couple scholarships lined up at that time, and my father knew I wouldn't get the education in Mexico at the collegiate level that I would be able to get here. So we had a lot of extended family in the area, and one of them I was very close to. So they took me in for the last couple of years of high school until I got into college, and lived with them. So that was probably one of the biggest challenges, was just being able to stick through and being able to be here and be able to get to college.
How has Parkside shaped you as a person?
I think Parkside has allowed me to understand that when we have resources at our disposal, how to best utilize and take advantage of those resources. The idea that when you're on campus or even off campus, but you're in school, the idea that you have access to great thinkers' minds, talent, skills sets that you may not have, strengths that you see in others, from anywhere from professors to faculty here to other students.
You do anything differently? Like if you didn't go to college, what would you be doing?
This is a good question. I've always had just a strong passion and curiosity for media, audiovisual. So I would probably still be likely involved in some way, shape, or form with, maybe an audiovisual company, doing big events, putting big events on, and running sound, audio, technology, digital. I think all of that would still be things that I would have pursued just out of curiosity.
Thank you for your time today.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Anytime.